Good evening. It is 5 p.m. and I call this meeting to order. Have any blue cards been received for closed session items?
We do not have any blue cards.
The board will now recess to closed session. It is 6 p.m. and the board is reconvening from closed session. During closed session, the board took action on the following. On a motion by trustee Pearson and a second by trustee Williamson, on a vote of 4-1, the board appointed Craig Leach as principal of Magnolia Elementary School effective July 1, 2024. Trustee Ward voted no. All others voted yes. On a motion by trustee Williamson and a second by trustee Verbeff, on a vote of 5-0, the board appointed Lindsay Gordon as assistant principal of Valley Middle School effective July 1, 2024.
It's on the next page. Okay. It's on the next page. Page behind this.
Got it. Okay, and the board took action in closed session by a vote of 5-0 to reject a government claim against Carlsbad Unified School District on May 15th, 2024. Welcome, members of the public, board members, and staff. Thank you for attending. As noted in Board Bylaw 9324, this meeting is being video recorded and broadcast via a link on our website. The recording and broadcast may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. I'd like to remind audience members and speakers that it is not unusual for students and young children to be in attendance at our meetings or to watch the recorded broadcast. I invite you to model civility and decorum as we go about the business of the board this evening. While I cannot prohibit anyone from using unprofessional language, please think about students and adults who are watching our proceedings. We invite you to show support for a speaker by waving your fingers rather than clapping or cheering. We'll begin tonight's meeting with Trustee Pearson leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Verbeff will lead us in a moment of meditation. Trustee Williamson will read from our meeting norms, and Trustee Ward will read from the district vision, and Ms. Garcia will take roll.
Before we start, I just want to say in 1892, the first version of the Pledge of Allegiance, 10,000 students recited it. So if you can join me with hundreds of thousands, maybe a million students who recite it now. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, I'd like to read from a book that was created by our students, written and illustrated, is recently published, called The Seaside Storybook, in honor of teachers in our school district who are inspiring our students to be all that they can be, to be creative and to be active learners. And so I'd like to read one of the stories that was written and illustrated by Marilyn Catano, called The Golden Hour. And it's also in honor of class of 2024. Through the gate, down the hall, inside the colorful classroom, I feel small. Eyes wide, heart beating fast, hearing gibberish words leave me downcast. Among the snow-like skin and the hair strands of gold, with milk chocolate skin and licorice-like hair, I grow cold. All eyes are on me, the girl twirling her hair who knows nothing and is afraid no one will care. Year after year, working harder than most, behind I started, but gave my utmost. Determined to learn, I lost the fear of asking for assistance and found myself stronger with abundance of persistence. Now my future looks brighter than the golden hour. My sky has no limit thanks to God who is my power.
We added this year to our norms something that came from one of our students, and I really like this. It's gracious professionalism, and her definition, or the definition of the organization, said that this means that our behavior is marked by kindness and courtesy and characterized by a generosity of spirit.
My turn? Okay, I know we just had our staff and teacher appreciation weeks this past week ago, so I just want to read this part of our vision. Our staff members demonstrate an uncompromising commitment to student growth. They are leading scholars and experts in their field. They enthusiastically share their experience and knowledge and bring innovative ideas to their craft.
We will now take roll. Trustee Pearson?
Here.
Trustee Williamson?
Here.
Trustee Ward?
Here.
Trustee Verbeff?
Here.
Trustee Rawlings?
Here. Thank you. And we now move on to Part 4, approval of the agenda. Trustees, are there any questions? No questions. May I have a motion to approve Agenda Item 4.1, approval and reorganization of May 15th, 2024 meeting agenda?
Motion?
Motion by Trustee Ward,
Second, Verbeff?
second Verbath. Any discussion? Ms. Garcia, please call for a vote.
Trustee Pearson?
Yes.
Trustee Williamson?
Yes.
Trustee Ward?
Yes.
Trustee Verbeff?
Yes.
Trustee Rawlings?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, we'll move on to Superintendent's Report, Item 5.2.
Thank you, trustees. I have a couple of items here. The first, I'd like to thank the city of Carlsbad for continuing to support our school crossing guards program. I'd like to thank the many crossing guards that keep our students safe before and after school. The presence of crossing guards at key intersections throughout Carlsbad not only enhances traffic safety, but also fosters a sense of security and reassurance among our students, parents, and staff. We're aware that the city expends more than $470,000 annually to support the program citywide. The city's recognition of the importance of the program speaks volumes about our city's prioritization of our children's safety and education. There are many reports of the positive actions of school crossing guards that impact the safety and well-being of students every day. I'm very appreciative of the individuals who serve as school crossing guards, and I'm very thankful that the city of Carlsbad continues to support this important program. Next, I'd like to share with you with great enthusiasm that we've learned the names of the recipients from Carlsbad Unified School District who were selected to receive Excellence in Special Education Awards at this month's NICSE annual event. Among all students and staff from the 14 North Coastal Consortium school districts, Carlsbad Unified will be well represented. The following staff will be recognized here shortly. Sarah Shea, CHS teacher, has been selected to receive the award for Inclusive Practices Special Education Teacher Award. Charity Fisher, a Sage Creek High School teacher, has been selected to receive the Lynette Robinson Award for Inclusive Education in the General Education Teacher category. Hope Elementary Autism Program at Hope Elementary, the program has been selected to receive the Collaborative Team Award. And Kimberly Fuentes, who is currently the CHE principal, has been selected to receive the General Education Administrator Award. One of our parents will also be recognized. Tricia Benton has been selected to receive the Collaborative Parent Award. And we have 6 students who will be recognized. A certificate of recognition in the supportive student category for efforts in promoting inclusion in our schools and our communities. Rachel Kahn from Carlsbad High School is the winner of that award. And then 5 other students will be named student ambassadors. Brady Benton at Kelly Elementary, Cecilia Yoon at Kelly Elementary, Avery Epp at Kelly Elementary, Noah Ucker at Kelly Elementary, and Paula Velasquez at Carlsbad High School. So congratulations to all of our students and staff and parent for being recognized for special education excellence. Finally, Michaela Santon is our student board rep from CVA and CSA. This would have been her last meeting, but she is at her, I believe, a sports banquet this evening. So we wish her well in her endeavors next year. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we move on to item 5.3, public comment on non-agenda items. This is the time that members of the public have the opportunity to address the board on any non-agendized items that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. How many blue cards have we received for non-agenda items?
We have a total of 3 blue cards.
Thank you. In order to allow speakers to present their comments and ensure we are able to properly attend to the business of the board, per Board Bylaw 9323, public comments will be limited to 20 minutes. This means each speaker will have 3 minutes. When I call your name, please come to the podium, state your name, and indicate whether or not you live within the boundaries of the district. The first speaker is Shauna Hurst.
Good evening, Shauna Hurst. I do live in the district. And I just want to say congratulations to my friend Lindsay Gordon for being appointed assistant principal. I know she's been working really hard towards that goal, and it's very exciting for her. Just my quick PTA report. As Trustee Ward mentioned, it's Staff Appreciation Month. And so most of the PTSAs and PTAs have been very busy feeding the staff and all of the teachers and all of the people and everyone in between, and take to go bags, and making sure all the custodians who come in after we're there have food and all the things. So just based on the school sites that I'm involved in, it's easily the PTAs put back at least $10,000 plus for food for the staff. It is a significant budget item in a lot of our PTAs. I want to just thank all the parents who put all the volunteer and the time to make it happen, because I do know our teachers love it. I was on site at CHE and CHM. We combined it last week, and it was just great. It's a great opportunity to spend time with the teachers and make them feel appreciated. And I always do feel a little bad for our custodial staff because they have to clean up all the mess. So I do apologize for all the extra mess custodial staff, that I'm grateful. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of our parents and to the teachers who hopefully felt loved. And I know it's still going on. I know at Sage Creek we're not feeding them till the end of the month because it's very hard to do with SPEC testing. Gets in the way of staff appreciation. I think that's kind of a little bit of an oxymoron that we do it at the same time, but it's, anyways, I just wanted to thank all of our PTAs for continuing supporting our units and all their hard work, but especially this month, thank our teachers. Thanks.
Next speaker is Allison Emery.
Hello, everyone. Allison Emery, Carlsbad resident, daughter in Valley Middle School. I just wanted to mention that about a week ago, on May 8th, the State Superintendent of Public Education, Tony Thurmond, along with Governor Newsom, announced that the State Board of Education approved close to $1.3 billion of grants towards community schools. The initiative funds a lot of things that we are already doing, such as universal free school meals, universal transitional K, before and after school programs, teacher training, coaching, recruitment, retention, tutoring in both literacy and math, providing more teachers, counselors, paraeducators, and as we do a master plan for career education. And we're doing most of that. The one thing I see that we're still a little behind on is the need for the youth behavioral health, specifically through the role of at least one district social worker. Our teachers do a lot. They're asked to do a lot. They consistently step up to do that job. However, they are not trained social workers, and we're asking them to fill a void that stretches them too thin and also provides a disservice to our students. So in my personal experience, working with the district social worker has been transformative. Shout out to Rose if she's listening. There are a liaison between the parents and the school, a support and sounding board for the teachers, provide invaluable expertise to our families, and most importantly, they bridge that gap that students aren't able to get from their teachers and counselors alone. So as the State Board of Education President, Linda Darling-Hammond, said, we know that children learn best when they're healthy, happy, and in a learning environment where they're surrounded by knowledgeable and caring adults to attend to their needs. So I hope that when you look at the best implementation for the LCAP presented today, that you consider how many of those goals would be met by a district social worker and the rippling impact it might have for our students and staff in all areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Morgan.
School board members, good afternoon. My name is Tim Morgan. I live on Valley Street. I come here tonight to discuss the proposed foul ball net, which is being planned to be added to the Valley Middle School field. I come here tonight representing a group of neighbors, not just one, and to document the facts from the neighbors and make a request. School board members, we can't ignore the facts. Community engagement. Last school board meeting on May 1st, it was recorded door hangers were given to the surrounding neighbors. Fact. I went door by door asking the neighbors if they received door hangers. Every single neighbor said no. No door hangers were handed out about the foul ball net. Even the two neighbors who wanted some protection or change from the lacrosse balls said there were no door hangers handed out. Let me repeat this. Both neighbors who rode into the school district did not receive a door hanger and or communication about the plans of the foul ball net. Fact, I went door by door explaining how the school district is planning to add the foul ball net. Again, not a single household supports the current plan. Even both neighbors who wanted change doesn't support the current plan. Note, we want protection, but not the current net which is being proposed. School board members, look, Eric Dill knows the two neighbors who have been complaining about the lacrosse balls. I know the two neighbors. We are all friends. We all live in the same neighborhood. We all want the same thing, which is to work together for an alternative solution, not the current plan. So here's our request. The foul ball net project started out on the wrong foot, lack of community involvement, along with not having the proper application in the Coastal Commission, resulting in very upset neighbors who do not support the plans. Now, today, you have the opportunity to hit the reset button. It starts with the governance requests. We're asking one of the board members to step up and request a governance to reconsider the foul ball net proposal, to get community involvement. I was speaking to Michael. Eric knows him. And we want to organize, Michael and I, we want to organize a town hall meeting where Parks and Rec, the city, the school district, and the community come together as one, Carlsbad, to openly discuss the lacrosse ball issue and explore alternative solutions, such as having removable nets, having netting to cover the existing height, or removing lacrosse. These are all solutions from the neighbors, including the two neighbors that was working with Eric. We ask you, school board members, to cancel the net, to work with us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We now move on to Part 6, Consent Calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered by the board to be routine and will be enacted by the board in one motion. There will be no discussion on these items prior to the time the board votes on the motion unless there is a board request for one or more specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for discussion. Have any blue cards been received?
We do not have any blue cards.
Thank you. Trustees, Mr. Dill has asked that item 6.17, vehicles purchased, be pulled for discussion in order to make a correction. Dr. Churchill has asked that item 6.21, CIF resolution, be pulled to make a correction and will be brought back to the next meeting. Are there any other items to be pulled for discussion? No items. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of items 6.17 and 6.21?
So moved, Williamson?
We have a first by Williamson, second by Ward. Ms. Garcia, please call for a vote.
Trustee Pearson?
Yes.
Trustee Williamson?
Yes.
Trustee Ward?
Yes.
Trustee Verbath?
Yes.
Trustee Rawlings?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Mr. Dill, item 6.17.
Yes, thank you for pulling the item. We need to revise the cost of the two electronic vehicles due to a calculation error by the vendor. They took the value of state credits and they applied it pre-tax, not post-tax. So that raises the value of the tax and the total cost of the vehicles. The vendor could have withdrawn the quote, but since we hadn't taken action yet and we still would recommend moving forward with this particular quote even at the higher price, we asked the board to approve item 6.17 with the revision that the cost of the electric trucks will be $174,417 each for a total of $348,834.79, and no change to the cost of the gasoline-powered truck.
Thank you. Trustees, any questions? No questions? May I have a motion to approve item 6.17 with the noted changes by Mr. Dill?
So moved, Pearson.
I'll second Rawlings. Any discussion? No discussion? Trustees may, Ms. Garcia, please call for a vote.
Trustee Pearson?
Yes.
Trustee Williamson?
Yes.
Trustee Ward?
Yes.
Trustee Verbath?
Yes.
Trustee Rawlings?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. And we now move on to Part 7, discussion action items. Item 7.1, Independent Oversight Committee 2023 Annual Report. Trustees, this is a discussion action item. I will now hand it over to Mr. Dill.
Thank you, and good evening. Each year, the Independent Oversight Committee prepares an annual report to the board and community, and that's placed on the district website. They report on their activities, and they make any other notes that they feel are important to include in the report. Before I introduce the chair, I would like to thank the board for your action just now to appoint 3 members to the Independent Oversight Committee, 2 of whom are in here this evening. I see Stephanie Wells and Kevin Slebiota in the audience, and so now we have a fully formed committee plus 1 spare. So we're good to go for the next year. I would like to introduce Mr. Greg Dowell, who is the Independent Oversight Committee Chair, to make a brief presentation on the report.
Thank you, Eric. Good evening, Dr. Churchill, trustees, and members of the educational community. I'm Greg Dowell, and I have the honor of serving as the chair of the Independent Oversight Committee for the Carlsbad Unified School District. As a group, we meet 4 times a year, and we're asked to ensure that the building expenditures approved by your trustees align with the purposes of the measure HH, which was passed by the voters. First, I'd like to thank trustees who, by consent, approved extending the term of the current committee member, Michael Zepeda, and to welcome to the IOC our newest committee members, Stephanie Wells, Kevin Slebiota, and Craig Bishop, who were also approved earlier this evening. They joined myself and current members Brenda Hall, Marla Evans, and Dr. Jay Marquand in our role as the eyes and ears of the community overseeing our bond spending. Annually, we issue 2 reports. The first was presented at the February 21st meeting and was the findings of our independent auditors, Christie White and Associates, posting financial statements and their assessment of the internal controls governing board-authorized construction. We reported to you that board spending for our facilities master plan received the highest rating possible from our outside accountants. So hats off to Eric, Jessica, and the entire facilities and construction management group. Our second report is this. It's the annual Independent Oversight Committee report, and it details progress on Measure HH supported construction and remodels of our existing campus structures. Included is a brief review of the independent auditor's findings and updates on construction progress over the past year. To say the least, it's been a busy one, with modernization and building throughout the district at all levels, elementary, middle school, and high school levels. The annual report provides transparency on that spending to anyone who helped to pass the educational bonds. It provides a clear roadmap of where we stand with project timelines and their corresponding financial outlays. In pictures and words, it captures how your tax dollars are being spent to further improve our school facilities. It's a good read. Yeah. So tonight I'd like to thank the staff, especially Kathy Gunselman, for their assistance compiling the report. I'd also like to thank former IOC member Shauna Hurst for her dedicated service to our committee and the district. The IOC reviewed and approved the report at our recent quarterly meeting, and I respectfully request that the Board of Trustees accept the IOC annual report and post it to the community on the district website. I'll gladly take any questions.
Thank you. But first, we do need to ask for public comment. So have we received any blue cards?
We have 1 blue card.
That's very good. Let me just make my statement here. Please state your name and indicate whether or not you live within the boundaries of this school district. You will have 3 minutes. We will have the timer on the screen, and you will be muted if the time expired. Shauna Hurst.
Shauna Hurst, recently termed out IOC member, and not bringing my laminated speech because I'm going just rogue here, per usual. But I just wanted to say just exactly what Greg talked about here, that the IOC does look at, making sure that the bond funds are spent on the projects that were presented to the community way back in 2017, 2018, when it passed. And I just want to say that especially based on the working session that you did a month ago, that you made some hard decisions. And I appreciate that, especially unfortunately, I know it was really hard with the CAC, that's a hard decision the project continues to escalate, but in essence to preserve, I think, the overall feel of what was presented to the community to try and have improvements as many schools as possible and hit as many classrooms and as many touches as possible, that was the right decision. So I meant to send an email, but a whole month went by and I didn't. So I wanted to say publicly thank you for board doing some of the hard work. I know for some of the trustees, it was a really, really hard decision because we've looked at that so many times over the last few years, and we really want to do it. And unfortunately, as we all know, we want to do a lot of things, but we only have money for so many things, and current construction escalations have really made it difficult. And I just want to know, this is for Trustee Williamson, that I still had a neighbor today ask me when the pool at Sage Creek is going to be put in. So, just so you know, it's still out there. So, on that note, I bid you adieu.
Thank you, Shauna.
Thank you. Now, trustees, do you have any questions? Any questions? May I have a motion to accept the IOC 2023 annual report?
Motion.
First by Trustee Ward,
Second, Williamson.
second by Williamson. And then is there any discussion? I would just like to say thank you for all of your work. We appreciate your willingness to volunteer and to oversee these gigantic projects for our community. So I appreciate your efforts and your work here. Any other discussion? No other discussion? Ms. Garcia, please call for a vote.
Trustee Pearson?
Yes.
Trustee Williamson?
Yes.
Trustee Ward?
Yes.
Trustee Verbeff?
Yes.
Trustee Rawlings?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. Now we move on to item 7.2, approval 2024-2025 proposed draft local control accountability plan aligned to actions and services. Trustees, this is a discussion action item. I will now hand it over to Dr. Nye.
Thank you, President Rawlings, trustees, and Dr. Churchill. Tonight, staff is pleased to present the 2024-25 Local Control Accountability Plan. You'll see several exhibits that are attached to this agenda item. The first, Exhibit A, is the entirety of the plan, which is in the state template. I believe that's about 70 pages long. Exhibit A1 is an addendum, which we envision combining those two at the end of when we submit this to the county. But basically, that's the annual expenditures this year during the 2023-24 school year. So based on the plan that we approved last year. You'll also see Exhibit B, which is really a one-page document that is a kind of high-level or overarching goals as well as expenditures for each of those goals. So it gives you an idea of those expenditures and what makes up each of those expenditures. I showed this slide before. I believe I showed that during the last board meeting. But the purpose, the main purpose of the Local Control Accountability Plan is to identify increased or improved services for high-need students. And the state terms those students as unduplicated students. And an unduplicated student is English learners, foster youth, and students receiving free or reduced lunch for the 2024-25 school year. So what the state does is it basically says, how many unduplicated students do you have next year? And then based on that, a percentage of your overall budget then has to be geared towards improved or increased services for those students. So for us, that equates next year roughly to about $5,376,000 of a budget that's about $160 million. So part of that budget has to be assigned to increase or improve services for those students. It's important to note that this is not a separate budget on top. This is an additional stuff that we get. We carve out certain dollars for increased or improved services for those students. And then it's also important to note most of the expenditures that we identify in our LCAP plan are really already existing expenditures that help increase or improve services. An example of that could be counselors. We added elementary counselors after the pandemic. We've added those counselors every year or maintained those counselors every year since the pandemic. Each year, those count as increased or improved services towards our unduplicated count, a portion of those counselors. So that's an example of things that are already existing that we're going through and identifying those again as they meet the needs of our unduplicated count. Currently, in our current proposed plan, we have approximately $6,826,000 towards meeting that requirement as described in the LCAP. So we've identified, staff has gone through, identified actions and services exceeding what we are required to do, but based on things that we already have currently in our budget and services that we're already providing. It's important to note that there are also some items that we've included in the LCAP that cannot be counted towards our unduplicated, increased or improved services as the letter of the state. And because we're using one-time dollars to meet the needs of those students. So those are grants largely. We still capture or try to capture those in the LCAP because their service is going towards unduplicated, they're supporting unduplicated students, but they can't count towards that required amount. That has to come from a general ongoing account that we are allocated each year. So some of the things that we've included in the LCAP plan are the A to G completion improvement grants, the educator effectiveness grant, and the arts, music, and instructional materials discretionary block grant. So again, those are one-time dollars. We've identified them for the purposes of the LCAP and because they're services that support unduplicated students, but they can't count towards our unduplicated count in supplemental is what we call that. So towards that $5,300,000 that we're required to hit. So I mentioned before, Exhibit B is really an encapsulated one-pager that takes the 70-page exhibit of the LCAP and distills that down to one page. Also in the LCAP itself, the first 4 or 5 pages is kind of a community page that will kind of encapsulate all of our actions and services as well, that kind of describes that as well. So we wanted to just highlight quickly just some of the actions that are in the LCAP that we've identified this year or for the next school year. In the area of number 1, implement strategies to close the achievement gap, including professional learning, coaching, support, aligned with district initiatives. Part of our elementary and secondary TOSA support, part of their salary is made up of this particular action and service. We're continuing with our science TOSA that is doing a lot of the work on the implementation of our new science adoption and supporting the work at the high school level of open educational resources. So part of her salary again is helping in that contributing increase or improve services. And then support staff. So our database administrators, our administrative assistant support, percentages of their salaries go towards that unduplicated count because they do support unduplicated students. And then continuing with our middle school guidance technicians as well. It's important to note that all of that isn't going directly towards that $6 million because some of these people are being paid for out of federal funds, one-time funds, as I mentioned before. So it is a combination of funds that are making up that particular action and service. I'm not going to go through each one of these individually, but I'm happy to answer questions on these. But it gives you a flavor of what we've done and what we've identified again in the areas of actions and services. On the second page, we continue to hire 2 ELD teacher specialists teacher TOSAs to provide targeted support and aligned framework. They're primarily providing professional development for our teachers. They're not doing a lot of pull-out support. They also help support our DLAC meetings as well as some of the testing that they're doing, required to do annually throughout the course of a year. We also have in there continued with the off-ratio elementary teachers for support for intervention teachers. Again, that is money that's being paid for out of one-time dollars. So it's going to contribute. It's helping support students, our unduplicated students, but it's not going towards the overall $6 million that we've allocated, that we've identified in ongoing expenses. And then a lot of our special education services to support special education students. So total expenditures in this goal area are $25,171,644. Of that, $15,709,000 are coming from our ongoing base accounts. $4,174,666 is coming from supplemental, and $2,797,262 is coming from federal or those one-time grants that we listed before. In the area goal number 2, this is to align student learning to state-adopted standards supported by materials, instruction, technology, and a safe and clean environment. I'll just highlight our professional development plan. We're working on a professional development plan next year. Primarily that's focused around universal design for learning. So we're excited. We're building that out now. Much of these dollars is coming from the Educator Effectiveness Grant. So not a lot of these dollars are coming from general ongoing funds. We're using one-time dollars here, again, that are going towards supporting students, unduplicated students, but we can't count that towards our unduplicated count. So that's the area goal number 2. Total expenditures in this goal area are $9,047,764. $6 million roughly coming out of the base, and $1,442,000 coming from supplemental, and then you'll see the federal dollars there. The last area of engagement, engaging parents, staff, and the community to promote unique educational opportunities for students. We have captured a lot of our CTE pathways and sections. So a percentage of a teacher salary, as an example, that's going towards career technical education. We can count some of that salary as being counted towards supplemental. To give you an example, also our work with our college and career TOSA, that's paid for out of a grant currently, but that helps with our unduplicated students, and then continuing with high school guidance technicians and counselors to support CTE. All of our work around Parent University as well, including our Spanish-speaking Parent University nights, those go towards meeting this goal. So in this goal area, roughly $3,794,000. $2,429,000 is going out of LCFF base. About $1 million is coming or being credited towards that LCFF supplemental, and roughly about $349,000 are coming from federal or other. Quickly, what we'd like to do is just take a look each year at what we get feedback from our standing consultation groups, as well as the feedback that we hear from the board during our study session, and try to capture some of the actions and services that we saw during those things and put a monetary value to what those things are. Again, when we talk about increased services, these might be things that we did this year. They might be things that we did last year. The term increase or improve services is directly related to each year we reset and we accredit those dollar amounts towards our unduplicated student population. So it is a judgment call that we're making to maintain those services or continue with those services. The state says that those are increased or improved services over the course of that year. The LCAP's not really designed to compare one year to the next. It's not supposed to do that. It's really supposed to address what are you doing next year, and those things are increased or improved services based on core programs. So in this case, we have identified continue with elementary intervention teachers for one additional year. That's addressed in Goal 1, Action 3, and that the board, we got some direction that we thought was positive direction to continue with that program to the tune of about $1 million. That is money that will be taken from one-time dollars, not ongoing. It's money coming from one of the grants. We also have continuing with additional secondary student supports. This can be captured in Goal 1, Action 3, as well as Goal 2, Action 7. This includes everything from intervention classes for students at the secondary level, continue with additional secondary support. We added secondary counselors as well post-pandemic that we maintained and we will continue to maintain for next year. That's the plan. Continue with some of our tutoring and our intervention and our supplemental dollars that we give to each site. So that's approximately $1,709,776. We also have continuance of the elementary school counselors. And so that's roughly $631,000. And then we do some class size mitigation at grades 4 through 5 that we've captured as well. We continue to give additional sections beyond the staffing ratio to keep class sizes in grades 4 through 5 lower. That equates to $786,000 specifically. So total services there, $4,162,767. Some of those things go towards our supplemental, and others just are paid for out of one-time grant money. And so they're not necessarily attributed towards the supplemental account, but they're services that are provided to help unduplicated students. So with that, staff's happy to answer any questions. I would say one last thing, that all of the actions and services staff believes are in place to achieve our goals and our success indicators every single year. We go through and evaluate what we've currently had in place, what was successful, what was not successful. We look at specific programs, specific positions, and we try to analyze whether or not those positions have impact or not. And so we believe that the expenditures and the budget items that we proposed here, the actions, definitely will help us achieve our goals and success indicators. It's also important to know that there's approximately another $140 million outside of what's identified in the LCAP as things that also go towards achieving our goals and success indicators. So there's a much larger budget out there, people, staff, programs that are outside of the LCAP that continue to support our goals and success indicators annually as well. So with that, I'll turn it back over to President Rawlings.
Thank you. This is time for public comment. Have any blue cards been received?
We have a total of 3 blue cards.
Thank you. Please state your name and indicate whether or not you live within the boundaries of the school district. You will have 3 minutes. The first speaker is Jen Belknap.
Hello, I'm Jen Belknap. I live in the district. On Exhibit A, page 2 of the LCAP, under Annual Performance for 2023, we read that on the spring SBAC, the percentage of students meeting or exceeding standards in math was 62%. That's the district average of grades tested. When we extrapolate out individual site data, we see some significant disparities in math proficiency. Carlsbad High School had just 45.91% of 11th graders meeting the standard for math proficiency. Sage Creek's 11th graders fared better with 63.32% meeting the standard for math proficiency. Looking at our 3 middle schools, Valley had 50.65% of its 8th graders proficient in math, AOM was at 66.74%, and Calaveras Hills Middle had 45.97% of 8th graders proficient in math. Our much higher performing elementary sites are boosting the district-wide average, with several sites reaching math proficiency at 80% or higher for grades tested. I know I keep bringing up math scores in public meetings, and it's because I care. As a parent of 2 students who struggled with this core subject, I know what the obstacles are and what doors are closed when your child is not proficient in state standards for math. I'm very concerned that we are not including enough funding for extra teachers and staff at the secondary level who could assist our struggling students before they go off to college or into careers. I'm glad the board recognizes the need to improve here, but Goal 1 of the LCAP doesn't list a target for meeting the standard in math proficiency at 70% or higher until year 3 of this plan. The SBAC results prove that we have work to do, and if you look at page 5 of the LCAP, you'll see 3 of the 4 themes from the LCAP feedback meetings centered around academic support. Number 2 was lower class sizes, number 3 was retain quality teachers, and number 4 was academic intervention and support for students. I really hope that the 37 staff members who are being discontinued next year do not include secondary staff, because we certainly need more resources there, not less. We need all of our secondary students to be proficient in math in order to prepare them for life beyond school, beyond high school, as a college and career-ready scholar, which our CUSD mission and graduate profiles speak to. Lastly, I think we can meet a goal of 70% or higher for the district average and across our secondary sites as well, because we're already doing it on average and at almost every site in ELA. So great job there, CUSD. Keep up the good work.
Next speaker is Scott Davison.
Tonight, I'd like to talk about equity. It's one key aspect of our DEI plan, so I don't think it needs much of an explanation, but it means that we provide all of our students with the resources they need to succeed. Or, as recited in Goal 1 of our LCAP, it prepares students for college and career. So tonight, I would like to challenge the board to carry out the equity goal you committed to last year when you voted for our DEI plan. When you look at the needs of our students in the district, there is a glaring disparity, or as we might call it, inequity. The test scores for our elementary students far exceed those of our high school students. So when you look to allocate services in our LCAP, it should be clear that we should be deploying as many resources as possible to our secondary students. It should be even more obvious that resources should be deployed to our secondary students when you read Goal 1, to prepare our students for college and career. It doesn't say to prepare them for middle school. College and career means we need to prepare them for when they graduate. So if less than half of Carlsbad High School students are proficient in math, equity demands that we deploy as many resources as possible to those secondary students so they do leave CUSD ready for college and career. But that's not what's happening with our LCAP plan. Not only is the budget being cut for secondary services, there are additional cuts being made to staff that will no doubt impact our secondary students, which the superintendent and his staff won't talk about. You know who is talking about it? Lots of other school districts who are open and honest with their parents, teachers, and students about the budget issues and their efforts to help students. Santa Barbara Unified, for example, was in the news last week after they released a detailed list of exactly which staff was being cut and why in an effort to be transparent. Why isn't CUSD transparent about these cuts? Well, perhaps it's because you don't want to be transparent about cutting services for our students after you just increased salaries for our teachers. Providing an $8.4 million raise to our teachers while cutting over $5 million worth of teachers that help students doesn't sound like equity, does it? What else is inequitable about this plan? Continuing with recently added services like intervention teachers for elementary students while not providing any new intervention teachers for our middle and high school students. You'll have to forgive me for questioning your commitment to our DEI plan, as this LCAP plan is clearly not equitable to our secondary students. The good news is, this isn't hard to fix. The $8.4 million raise you approved last month is being paid primarily from our general fund, which has millions in the bank and is almost completely unrestricted. So if you spent $8.4 million on our raises for our teachers, equity would demand that you spend $8.4 million on our students too. Let's set an example for our students by demonstrating that our school board is proficient in English and math and exemplify equity. Thank you.
Next speaker is Cara Bonanno.
Good evening. I'm Cara Bonanno, and I live within the boundaries of the district. The good news is that my comments are going to be short and sweet. I don't have the laminated speech thing that Shauna mentioned, so I'll just go rogue also. I'm a concerned parent. I have a student in the district at Sage Creek High School, high-performing, high-achieving student. However, in some of the honors classes, specifically honors geometry, honors English, over 40 students. Doesn't serve the teacher well, does not serve the student well either. The teachers are stretched thin, the students are struggling to get questions answered or any type of support, even if they need tutoring, even at that level. I would think that the district would want to set our students up for success, and it's shocking to me that the 4.5% raise can be approved while cutting 37 teachers. So it's obvious that in order to grant that, to make that raise happen, the 37 teachers had to be discontinued, laid off, whatever you want to call it, however you want to capture it. But it's also interesting to me, too, that we just heard that in 4th and 5th grade, there was a focus on reducing class sizes. Where is the conversation about reducing class sizes at the high school level, especially if we want to prepare those students for college? It's just, I've heard it from teachers, I've heard it from my student, I've heard it from other parents. The teachers are burning out. They have too many students in a classroom. It's not uncommon for a teacher to leave the classroom in the middle of a class to kind of collect themselves and just kind of do a mental reset. They're burned out. Students are also struggling because they don't have the appropriate support. Even whether you have a student who's hitting the benchmark, exceeding the benchmark, or struggling to meet the benchmark, they all need support, but in a different way. So I would hope that the district would reconsider revisiting, addressing that issue of the excessively large class sizes, both at Sage Creek and Carlsbad. I can't speak for Carlsbad High because I have a student at Sage Creek. But it just doesn't seem equitable that there's such a focus on the primary school and schools and not the secondary. So I'm asking the board to just reconsider reducing those class sizes at the secondary level. And I thank you for hearing my concerns.
Thank you. And so trustees, thank you for providing questions in advance of the meeting tonight. And are there any additional questions that you were unable to ask staff? Trustee Beth.
Okay. I'd like to tease off of some of the comments that were just made by our public. Can the staff explain why there are no recommendations for increasing services for secondary students, given the SBAC scores and the requests and the stakeholder requests for lowering class sizes, as well as our teachers union recommending that as well?
Yeah, there are several actions and services that go directly towards secondary, that are targeted specifically for secondary students. This lists about roughly 1,700,000, which include intervention classes, which are off-ratio sections that are assigned to the secondary level for students in need of intervention in English language arts and math, continuing with secondary counselor support, as well as we do mitigate. I know that Ms. Arias may be able to talk to this better than I can, but we work with principals at each of the secondary sites to try to mitigate and allow for additional sections when we do get those sections that bump up into the 40s. So I know that we're looking at the master schedule every year. We continue to work with principals on that to try to make sure that we're offering off-ratio sections to try to keep class sizes at a manageable level. And there are literally millions of dollars in the plan right now geared directly towards secondary students in both English language arts and math.
Other questions? I have one. So when I submitted my questions in advance, I was still a little confused on the connection between the success indicators and the actions and services. So for instance, and I'm looking here, so we have goal 1, action 3. So I'm assuming that that is meant to address, where is it now? So that's meant to address success indicator, the percentage of all students meeting or exceeding standards on SBAC will increase by 2% in ELA and math and by 1% in science. And can you tell me how? How does providing the 9 elementary specialists with the group intervention, how does that increase our SBAC scores?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry. Goal
Okay, so
1,
I'm-
action 3.
Right, so I'm looking at the success indicators, the goal and success indicators that we approved, that we spent hours on. And then when, and I'm looking at this, or I could look at some of the other pieces that say that we're going to, narrow the achievement gap and those types of things, which I don't see that in our success indicators. So what I'm trying to get at is that how are we connecting these actions and services to the success indicators that we talked about?
So goal 1, action 3 is specifically around increasing students meeting or exceeding SBAC scores, correct?
Right, so how does providing 9 elementary specialists do that?
Okay.
And then what evidence do we have that it has been successful?
So, we're in year 1 of this, but we presented some mid-year data on exactly how our elementary intervention specialists are doing exactly that. They're increasing the standards of students that were identified at the beginning of this year as being far below meeting the standard or not meeting the standard at all. And so we did show a significant increase at the mid-year level with our interim assessments, STAR assessments, and we hope to show that as well with our SBAC assessments at the end of the year, how those intervention teachers are having an impact specifically on student learning. They're not just doing pull-out learning, they're also doing modeling and helping teachers with quality first instruction and providing strategies for teachers in the gen ed setting on how they can meet the needs of students in their classrooms as well through rotations, through differentiation. So they're providing strategies, but they're also providing data, working with the principal. They're doing multiple things to help students that were identified as not meeting standards to actually meet standards.
So then as a follow-up, then on the slide on your presentation, it says that these items, the training or the having the specialists and those types of things, it says implement strategies to close the achievement gap, including professional learning, coaching, support, aligned, and district initiatives. So I'm trying to connect the success. I'm not seeing the success indicators aligned with the actions and services. I'm seeing different criteria than we discussed in the presentation. So that's all I'm trying to connect the dots.
Sorry, which slide are you referring to now? Sorry.
It's slide 5. So when we look at those two, I don't see our success indicators there anywhere on that slide, in that area.
Correct, because these are more actions, not
But that's what I'm
success
saying is
indicators.
that at what point do we connect those two items, the success indicators to the
Sure.
actions and services?
I would say that all of these things listed go towards our success indicators. So having elementary and secondary TOSAs supporting the work to close achievement gaps, meeting the needs of, an achievement gap could be on the STAR assessments, could be on SBAC assessments. All of these people are in place to help support closing the achievement gap and doing better on the standardized tests that are listed in our success indicators.
Other questions? Trustee Verbeck.
Can you explain where we're losing staff due to the expiration of one-time funds and how that's impacting our students?
Yeah, I at this point in time, for me, what I was focused on is what we're doing next year. So we've captured what we're doing next year. I probably am not the best person to ask in regards to staff as far as losing staff at this point in time.
I'm going to do a process check. How does that relate to, can you narrow your question to relate to the LCAP that's on the screen?
Sure. Are any of the proposed services directed to increase services to make up for the loss of the staff?
Are any of the proposed service? No, I would say in this case, we've identified existing programs and services in order to meet the needs of our unduplicated students. And so that's what we do annually every year. It's not really a comparison between one year and the next. That answers your question. So no.
Other questions? No other questions? May I have a motion to approve the preliminary draft local control accountability plan in Exhibit A?
Sorry, Kathy, I have one more question. Is that
Okay, Trustee Verbeff.
Sorry, thank you. We discussed chronic absenteeism in the last meeting, and so I'm not seeing any services directed to alleviating chronic absenteeism in the plan. We've heard that there's evidence in our district how we're using it at one particular school site. And so I'm just wondering why this isn't part of the plan to reduce chronic absenteeism at school sites that were identified in Exhibit A.
Yeah, part of what we're doing is identifying expenditures. We don't anticipate there being large expenditures around reducing chronic absenteeism. So we do have folks in place, like our bilingual liaisons, which will help with that work, and other support staff that are going to help. But we don't view this as a large expenditure item, so we're definitely going to try to do that because that is a success indicator that we're trying to get after. But we didn't identify a lot of expenditures, so therefore it's not really listed in the plan.
Other questions? Okay. Trustees, may I have a motion to approve the preliminary draft local control accountability plan Exhibit A?
So moved, Williamson.
Motion by Williamson, second by Trustee Ward. Discussion. I have some if no one else does.
Well, go ahead.
Okay, do you have some? Okay, go ahead for Trustee Verbeck.
Okay. After hearing from community members, I would like to propose that we add additional intervention teachers for secondary. We have math scores that need to be brought up. We need support for our students' mental health. There's just a wide variety of needs still at the secondary level. I do believe that we have made it a priority at the primary level, and I believe that for equity reasons, we need to also have this at the secondary level and help support our teachers and our students. So I'd like to recommend that we fund this either from the same block grant or simply pay for it out of the general unrestricted balance. But I think we need to add this expense.
Trustee Verbeck, have you had any discussion with staff on about approximately how many you're talking about and how much it might cost?
Well, I believe last month Dr. Nye and I did talk about what that could look like. I don't know if it's an extra $1 million, but I don't have that figure, no.
Because you would need to have two other board members to agree with you, and so I think that the board members would need to have that information. And how many intervention teachers are you proposing, and where would they work, and what would they do?
Well, I think there's been some discussion that, it costs more to run a high school than it does a primary school, primary education. And so the ratio is going to be different. We have 9 for elementary. I'm not sure what that ratio would look like for our secondary, but I do believe that we need that support. And it's going to cost at least $1 million if we have 9 at the primary. So I don't have that answer.
And again, if you're making a request from the board, you need to have that information, because it's not that staff wouldn't be able to approve your request. It would have to come from board members. So, I mean, I want to ask for thumbs from your colleagues, but I need to know what I'm asking them for, so.
Well, can I ask the staff what they estimate that cost to be? Because I didn't ask this question
But-
prior to.
Well, how many?
Well,
I
we're
mean,
going to need a minimum of 9. That's what.
So you're requesting 9 intervention teachers at the secondary level?
Well, I
Can
believe
I
it's.
ask a question too? I mean, of her.
Yes,
Yes.
Trustee Ward.
Yeah, so you mentioned intervention for social emotional health and for academic. So what, I mean, like, what were you thinking that looks like? Is it like a extra intervention counselor, or I'm just.
We need teachers. We need,
Okay.
and we're cutting the Wellness Together program, which is $200,000. So we need intervention teachers to help catch our kids up still. So,
Okay. So is it an intervention specialist that's supporting mental health, or intervention
No,
teachers that
academic
are,
and
so
helping.
only academics?
well, I
Okay.
think there's going to be some overlap always, but I think it's academic, primarily academic.
Trustee Pearson?
For Trustee Verbeck,
Sure.
is this 9 additional for students that are covered under the LCAP? Or is this 9 students, because we're talking about the LCAP
Right.
right now as an agenda item, not general?
General.
So I'm a little confused. Are you asking for 9 additional staff for students that are covered under the LCAP?
Sure.
Okay, well, so
Okay.
I'm going to have a problem supporting that.
Because that's a very targeted group.
And
So-
I'm pretty clear that what staff is proposing today is going to improve that group of students on their SBAC scores in math. And I think this is what the conversation was, and some of the community reported on, except I think the community is reporting on not just LCAP students, but students altogether, because that's the scores represent, not just the LCAP students as well. So it's from a budgetary standpoint and also just from an improvement. I think Dr. Nye, and I think we've done a lot of work in this area and a lot of conversation about the LCAP in general. So I'm confident that what is being proposed today is going to improve that. I'm not sure the 9 additional is going to improve the LCAP students. And somewhere, I have a problem with that. If you're going to improve, something else gets taken away. It's not like there's money just sitting there and not, and I'm sure Mr. Dill would be able to comment on that, to do that as well. So I just, Trustee Beth, I just wanted to share, and you clarified that, so thank you.
For me, I can't support it because it's too vague. I don't know how much it costs. I don't know what they would be doing. And I think I do support additional interventions. I think that it would be fantastic. And I would even support looking at the, reserves to, potentially pay for it. But because the request is too vague, I can't support it. Any other discussion? I want to, for thumbs for 9 intervention teachers at the support, or I'm sorry, I'm down. I just want to see thumbs. Okay, very good, okay. And then I had a request, I had some discussion as well that I wanted to bring up. When I was reading through this again and I asked the questions, and I didn't feel that that the success indicators and the actions and services are connected well enough. It seems like we have the success indicators, and then we kind of have strategies over here with potential actions and services. So I would like to ask staff before they bring it back for the hearing that they specifically connect what the actual success indicators, as I stated, the increase in the SBAC, and then the intervention teachers will, just like your answer described, where the intervention teachers will be used in this way in order to increase those scores. And so, because they're going to bring the LCAP back to us this is the draft, so I would like them to bring it back in that format in order to see the actual actions and services and how this will support our decided upon success indicators. Yes.
So are you asking, so the action and services that were listed in that presentation that Rob just gave, or Dr. Nye just gave, are you looking for those action and services to be tied to the success indicators?
Yes.
So you want them to actually show you that it
Yes.
goes under academic growth, local assessment, or state assessment, and where those are tied to?
Well, not just the
Those
state
suc-
assessment, what I'm saying is that.
Well, because I'm just
Our
reading.
success indicators, see, that's the problem, is that within the presentation, I only saw like one success indicator.
Because I'm looking at the success indicators
You are,
right now
okay.
that are under the goals.
Right.
And they're broken up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories.
Yes,
What
for
he
goal
shared
one.
with us was how those action and services are going to help us meet those different success
Right.
indicators, right? So what I'm hearing you say is that you would like to know how those action and services, how specifically they are tied to which success
Yes.
indicator. That is what you're wanting?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what I'm wanting. And the reason for that as well is that it's the actions and services,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll say the professional growth piece,
Mm-hmm.
for instance. That's going to have an impact on like 4 different success indicators, because it's going to help
Mm-hmm.
teachers with helping students in their learning environment. So to me, that's connected. And so all I'm saying is that I just want to see those two connected. That's all.
But I think my understanding too, just from my questions earlier, are that, these are some examples of the action and services that are tied to these success indicators, but there's actually, a lot of things that are being done within the district and within the school sites that help to meet these success indicators. So, some of the questions I asked, I know Dr. and I elaborated on, and they weren't necessarily expressed here, because these are just some examples. So how long of a list and how specific of a list are you looking for in terms of attaching those to the success indicators? Because I think there's a lot of actions and services that have to be done in order to meet these success indicators, but.
I agree, but that's
Right.
why I'm wanting to connect the dots, because then in the
Okay.
end, we can say, were they successful or not, right? Was having those intervention teachers, and again, this is just an example.
Sure.
But, having those intervention teachers, can we connect the dots that was something that actually helped to increase test scores, or it wasn't as impactful as, let's say, some of the professional development that we did. And so again, it's just a way of helping to measure
Yeah.
that we're actually spending the dollars in order to meet the goals and success
I
indicators.
guess
That's
I'm just wondering what that would look like. I would love to get input from staff on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
President Rawlings, for me to support that, I really have to have Dr. Nye weigh in on your whole narrative. And before I'd even, before I can make an intelligent decision, I'll just be honest. And so, because that is getting into the weeds part of this. And so, for me to understand, I'd really like to hear Dr. Nye's explanation to your concerns, if that's possible. And I didn't want to not move process around or anything, but hopefully that would help.
I appreciate that, thank you. Dr. Nye, can you, we've
Thank
at
you.
least had
Yeah.
the conversation via email, and I did talk with
Right.
Dr. Churchill a little bit about it as well.
And I like that idea. Let me just cast up the template, because maybe part of this, we're restricted to the state template on what we have to include and the order that it's included in. And so I'm not sure if what you're asking is even possible within the template that the state provides. But here are success indicators, they call them metrics, our success indicators under goal 1, which are listed out. And then based on the template, then we list out actions and services with those associated with those success indicators or metrics. We could list in the description potentially what metrics each action and service is attempting to accomplish. Would that get to what you're trying to do? Okay. yeah, that
And,
could
and
be
I was
something.
looking at it as potentially part of the presentation, so people could kind of see it, and that's what I was looking at. But if this is the best way to do it, then I'm fine with that as well. Trustee Pearson.
It's a follow-up. So how much time would that take for staff to do that?
I don't think that'll take too much time. I think a lot of things will have, multiple, and in this, it may get confusing because there are actions and services that I could think of that meet the needs of success indicators in other goals as well. So just the naming convention, how we're going to do that. Whether or not the county says this is okay or not is another story. There, but we'll get there when we can. But we could do a separate doc or an accompanying doc that maybe does that. Timing wise, we can do that between now and the next board meeting.
And the last thing is I'd love to hear from my colleagues here about request if there's, where they're at on this as well.
And again, I just want to elaborate that I'm really trying to connect how we're spending our dollars to the success indicators to the goals. And that's where, and again, I thank you for showing me the template, because I understand sometimes there's bureaucratic restrictions on this stuff. So I completely understand that. So, but that's the reason why when I was looking at the slide deck, I'm like going, well, what success indicator does that address? And so I felt like I had to dig too much for that. So that was the purpose for my request. Trustee Williamson.
If there were a straight line that led this action, and only this action will be impacting this goal, then I would see a value of that. But I don't believe that's what education is like. I believe that we have a whole myriad of actions that are going to be impacting. I think if we're doing like straight lines, we'd have a gazillion lines going all around. So I don't see the value add. So in my mind, I would not be supporting that.
Okay, I'm going to ask for thumbs. So, because I know we need to move on. So, okay. Then any other discussion? Okay, Ms. Garcia, please call for a vote.
Trustee Pearson?
Yes.
Trustee Williamson?
Yes.
Trustee Ward?
Yes.
Trustee Verbeff?
Yes.
Trustee Rawlings?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. We now move on to item 7.3, LIUNA initial reopeners. Trustees, this is a discussion action item. I will now hand it over to Ms. Megan Arias.
Thank you. LIUNA and the district previously negotiated an agreement which expires on June 30th, 2025, and allows for several articles to be reopened each year. LIUNA has identified the following articles to reopen at this time. Article 10, pay and allowances. Article 13, vacation. Article 15, health and welfare benefits. And Article 22, training and professional development. It is respectfully recommended that the Board of Trustees receive LIUNA's 23-24 reopeners for consideration. Thank you.
This is the time for public comment. Have any blue cards been received?
We do not have any blue cards.
Thank you. Trustees, do you have any questions for staff that you're unable to ask before the meeting? No? Okay. May I have a motion for the board to receive LIUNA's 23-24 reopeners for consideration?
Motion.
Second, Williamson?
Motion made by Trustee Ward, second by Trustee Williamson. Any discussion? No discussion. Ms. Garcia, please call for a vote.
Trustee Pearson?
Yes.
Trustee Williamson?
Yes.
Trustee Ward?
Yes.
Trustee Verbeff?
Yes.
Trustee Rawlings?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you. We now move on to item 7.4, approval resolution number 26-2324, electrification. Trustees, this is a discussion action item. I will now hand it over to Mr. Dill.
Thank you. At the February 21st meeting, the board requested that staff develop a resolution in support of electrification of our facilities as part of our ongoing commitment to sustainability and innovation. The attached resolution outlines the many ways in which we have reduced carbon emissions and our ongoing efforts to reduce energy consumptions. For example, some of the things that we've done, we've installed solar panels at 8 of our school sites. We have installed energy-efficient LED lighting as part of our modernization efforts. We've replaced older HVAC units with newer energy efficiency units, including heat pumps. We have replaced gas-fired units with heat pumps at some schools. We replaced the cooling tower at Carlsbad High School, which lowers both our water and our energy usage as part of that project. That work continues on a site-by-site basis as we go through. We mentioned earlier at the facilities workshop that all new construction of more than 2,000 square feet of roof space will now include solar panels and battery storage. So the first project up for that will be the new building at Pacific Rim Elementary School that we spoke about earlier this month, and followed by the new building at Aviara Oaks Middle School, which already has a large solar and battery installation on site. So we'll be augmenting that. Last year, we purchased our first 4 electric vehicles for our maintenance fleet. Then they replaced old gasoline-powered trucks. And you heard earlier when I had to unfortunately pull a consent item, that was not done intentionally, but it did highlight that we are replacing part of our warehouse fleet now with purchase of 2 electric delivery vehicles for the warehouse. So we are moving forward with that as well. The resolution, finally, it notes the impact of the climate change and how that is included in the TK-12 curriculum. It shows our support for careers in clean energy fields. It notes Dr. Churchill made sure that we included the recognition that we received at the National Green Ribbon Award at Jefferson Elementary School about a year and a half ago. And so, finally, it encourages us to continue to take those actions to reduce fossil fuel usage and other drivers of climate change.
Thank you. And this is the time for public comment. Have any blue cards been received?
We have a total of 5 blue cards.
Thank you. Please state your name and indicate whether or not you live within the boundaries of this school district. You will have 3 minutes. First speaker is Linda Daniels.
Hello, I'm here again. Good evening, Superintendent Churchill, President Rawlings, and trustees. I'm Linda Daniels, 11-year resident as of May 1st of this year of Carlsbad. I've spoken to you many times regarding a resolution to bring the Carlsbad Unified School District into building electrification. In reading the resolution, I was saddened to see that many goals were not included in the resolution. Decarbonizing the building sector, which accounts for over 1/3 of greenhouse gases, has broad benefits, including saving residents money, improving quality of homes and businesses, enabling fast, secure, interactive distributed energy resources like on-site solar panels, battery storage, and EV chargers. California has installed more giant batteries than the size of shipping containers anywhere in the world apart from China. They play a pivotal role in California's electric grid, replacing fossil fuels in the evening. So more of these. Imagine those huge batteries that are being put in California. So why then will you not resolve that all new construction be all electric starting in 2025? State already mandates the solar and the batteries, and the city of Carlsbad mandates heat pump water heaters or solar water heaters. We were the first in the state to do so. But I was advised by your staff that you go by the state architect and not by the city of Carlsbad when you make decisions about new construction. That doesn't mean you can't do it. Lastly, by opting up to green impact at the CEA, which is 100% green energy, by the end of 2024, you're reducing more greenhouse gases and making the air cleaner. Stating that at the end of life, all stoves and HVAC systems will be replaced by induction stoves, and heat pump systems needs to be added as well. There are 2 bills in Sacramento right now, AB 247 and SB 28, with $14 billion available to schools. Apply for those funds. I know you guys say that you're kind of last on the list because we're such a rich city, but we do have needs for, our schools as well. I want to thank you. And lastly, from Vanessa, she has this: we are on Earth to take care of life. We are on Earth to take care of each other. That's by a climate activist named Z. Stita. Let's do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Vanessa Forsyth.
My name is Vanessa Forsyth. I do not reside in the school district. I have lived in Carlsbad with my family, multi-generational, for going on 25, 26 years now. I am also a retired school nurse. I spoke to you earlier about my concerns in terms of the health impacts when we talk about climate change. And I was hoping for more in this resolution. A resolution is a commitment to the future. While I appreciate that Jefferson Elementary has been recognized as a green school, that's great, but I'd like to see in a resolution that you're going to do more with all the schools in the district in terms of being green and having the kids educated about climate change, which is the existential threat of our lifetime and their lifetime. And our role as educators is about the future, our commitment to these students and their future. Particularly, I'd like to see that you would reconsider and actually make a commitment to the Clean Energy Alliance, that you're going to do that by a certain date. More specific things about the curriculum that's going to prepare the students for clean energy jobs as we are moving away from fossil fuels, which is the result of what has brought us to this point. And it's getting worse. Even here in Carlsbad, with increased heat, with increased flooding, we've had slides of housing being impacted. So again, I really ask that you look further at this resolution and make it more future impacted with set goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Paige Delino.
Hi, I'm Paige Decino, and I've lived in the district for almost 45 years. I'll reiterate what Linda Daniels said with her concerns about this isn't a strong resolution in our minds, but at least it is a start. As a former CHS science teacher, it would be my preference that the board lead the students they oversee by example. One of the trustees mentioned that you want to inspire students to be all that they can. Well, do any of you remember that teacher that led you to be a better reader, a better mathematician, or just a better person? I'm hoping you do, because I think that's what you need to be here. You need to be aspirational in your goals, because climate change isn't something we can afford to do in little steps. Follow the science and you'll see that the world is not doing a very good job of meeting our climate goals. Excuse me, everybody needs to do their part. So aside from the suggested amendments that you've already heard, I ask you to consider the timely replacement of fossil fuel-powered maintenance equipment like leaf blowers and campus vehicles with electric versions. Landscape equipment with two-stroke engines emit a highly disproportional amount of GHG emissions. Electric replacements are quieter, healthier, and have virtually no emissions. The verbiage used in this resolution, like encourage staff to take reasonable actions to reduce the impacts of fossil fuel usage, isn't binding, and it's unlikely to lead to any concrete action. At the very least, you should revisit this resolution in the near future with the thought of stronger actions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Tamara Dixon.
Hello. I can appreciate everyone's concern about climate change and wanting to go all electric. However, do you realize that the batteries you use to drive your electric bikes and EVs are made of copper and cobalt, all natural resources which are mined across the U.S.? Electric bikes and EVs must be electrically charged, which puts a huge drain on the electric grid and affects the electrical need for the community and schools. What happens to our physical and mental health of the students when the overloaded electrical grid goes down? Isn't that the important factor of going all electric? Do you have an alternative plan if the electrical grid goes down? Going all electric is unreliable and unrealistic. There is no evidence that man-made solutions can materially affect the change in our climate. Carlsbad is a small community, and there is no proof that CUSD should spend money on something that doesn't affect the climate. Explain how spending district money on electrification will help climate change. Thank you.
Thank you. And next speaker is Serena Pelka.
Hi, good evening. My name is Serena Pelka. I'm a policy advocate at Climate Action Campaign, where our mission is to create a zero carbon future through effective and equitable policy action. When we envision this collective future that improves quality of life, we really see students and schools at the center of that. As community hubs, schools should be healthy spaces with clean air, access to renewable energy, and be free of polluting fossil fuels. The path to get there is through electrification. And while this resolution serves to highlight some of the very commendable sustainability actions that the district has taken, it is missing critical goals and timelines that would ensure its ability to serve as an impactful tool for action. Without clear, detailed goals and commitments, the school community is unable to track progress and outcomes from this work. Modern electric appliances are incredibly efficient, reducing energy use and saving the district money, as we've seen in other districts such as San Diego Unified, who adopted their resolution last April and have been implementing, and Sweetwater Union High School District, who adopted a really robust resolution in the fall. The case of reducing energy and saving the district money and high efficiency is especially the case for new construction, where building all electric will cut costs and increase performance. These savings can then be channeled into other student services and programming. As a foundational step, the district should commit all new construction to be built all electric in order to harness these cost savings, increase efficiency, and improve air quality for the health of the school community. Learning outcomes also worsen when students are in classrooms with weak ventilation and with poor air quality, which electric technology can improve. I want to sincerely thank you for these initial efforts to bring this resolution forward and really appreciate that the district has taken existing climate actions that are moving in the right direction. However, this resolution does need to do much more. It is an opportunity to harness decarbonization and efficiency measures, not just to protect the climate and improve air quality, but to be fiscally smart and plan for long-term savings. As you've heard from community members and dedicated advocates for months, we urge the district to add concrete goals to this resolution that focus on electrifying new and existing infrastructure, utilizing 100% renewable energy, and implementing a green jobs career pathway into the curriculum that will serve students and their futures. There is an opportunity to make additions to this resolution today, which we encourage you to do. Students are the future, and we do owe it to them to create not only cleaner, healthier schools, but communities that are resilient and sustainable. So thank you for your time and your consideration and all your hard work. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there questions, trustees? Trustee Verbeck.
When we make decisions about electrification, is there an analysis of the cost benefit of these decisions?
Well, it's a two-pronged analysis. First and foremost, we look at what the current building standards are and what they require us. And California schools are, people often ask us, do we design to LEED standards? And schools have a different standard, which is called CHIPS, which is Coalition for High Performing Schools, I believe. But it's very similar in that it looks to reduce energy consumption, through the design of buildings. And so, our architects have all of those CHIP standards in mind when they're making design choices. As we are going through modernization projects, often we are looking at, okay, what actions can we take as we move through a school, such as replacing older HVAC units with heat pumps. We're out there on the campus. We're renovating a classroom. We're working on the roof. The units are at end of life. We have an opportunity to do that work now. And so we look at that. We had a robust discussion earlier this month in the facilities workshop about using capital dollars to save on the general fund, and that's something that we try to do by putting in more energy efficient systems in order to save us on our consumption on the general fund. When it comes to installing solar, often people will do the return on investment and what that payback is. Our solar projects wrapped up just as I got here, and so I wasn't part of all of that initial work, but often they're looking at what's the payback over time. And as we talked about earlier this month, it's a little apples and oranges because we spent capital dollars over here, but we saved general fund dollars over there. You pull them together and you can say over time we save the district more than what a project cost. So that's a long-winded way of saying yes. We do that, but it is part of the overall design, and it really is undertaken as either we are moving through our campuses for modernization or new construction purposes. And I'll say I don't know of the two new buildings that I just spoke of, except for where we might need gas for science labs. For science, Bunsen burners, that all of the building systems themselves would be electric on those two new buildings, in addition to the rooftop solar and battery backup that we're putting in.
Okay, go ahead. As a follow-up, is there a reason, if we're going to do it anyway, why we didn't include it in the resolution?
Well, over time evolve and presumably get better, and so we're always going to be building to what those standards are that are out there. And so we thought in a broad sense we were saying that we're working towards continuing to do all of that work in the language that we had. I did look at the resolutions that other districts passed, and I'll say that there were lots of escape clauses in the language of those. While there were lots of words on there, they also said to the extent possible, practical, as funds are available, all of those things that could allow any of those districts to back out of meeting those goals. Ultimately, we're saying the same thing with fewer words, I believe.
Other questions? Trustee Verbeff?
So do we perform an analysis, like we just voted for these new electrified vehicles, right? And the cost difference between the electrified vehicle is, well, it's more than $170,000 now, relative to the gas-powered truck, which is $60,000. Do we look at the lifetime of that vehicle and replacing batteries and things like that?
Yeah, on the maintenance vehicles that we purchased last year, we looked at the credits that were available, and the costs were nearly comparable to gasoline-powered vehicles. And knowing that we would have lower maintenance costs, that we would not have the fuel costs, and electric cost much less, we thought it was a good decision. The other thing is they were available at the time, whereas we were having a hard time finding the other types of vehicles, so we were pursuing both avenues. With the two vehicles that we purchased or received approval earlier this evening, this was an effort to meet a new state standard that government vehicles that we purchase, at least 50% of our new vehicles must be electric vehicles. And so we're buying 3 delivery trucks, 2 out of the 3 are EVs. One is gas, and the reason why the other one is gas is because it's a refrigerated truck, and finding an electric refrigerated truck with right now that's cost effective and everything we need, just nearly impossible for us to find. So we bought the other 2 delivery vehicles electric to meet that standard. They're much more costly because they are delivery vehicles, and are tens of thousands of dollars even after the credit more. However, the ongoing maintenance costs presumably are much lower. As somebody who drives an electric vehicle, I know these things. I haven't had an oil change in 10 years. So the maintenance costs are lower. The electric versus fuel is lower, And these heavy-duty vehicles, we tend to keep them for much longer than, so we spread that cost over a much longer period of time. I'll say actually all of our vehicles, we pretty much run them into the ground and then we replace them. So, we'll ask me again in 15 to 20 years when we're replacing these vehicles how we did.
I have a follow-up on that as far as, isn't that kind of like what we're doing with our solar, for instance, that you make that one-time investment and then you have the ongoing savings, or as someone I used to work with, cost avoidance over time, that's where you have that return on investment piece?
Correct. And again, with the two vehicles that we're pursuing for our warehouse, that really was first and foremost to meet the new requirement for us to purchase 50% electric vehicles. But yes, we do know that we'll have that cost avoidance. And there was a report at First Interim where I did show the value of the cost avoidance on our solar, which was well over $500,000 over our 8 projects that we did back in 2019 and 2020. So yeah, we do look at how much did we not spend had we not done this.
And then one more follow-up on that, then, that being said, wouldn't it make sense that we would look to, that our energy source would be electric because we end up saving more money than we would using natural gas or other sources because of our solar investment?
We use actually very little in terms of natural gas when you look at it comparatively. First and foremost, our cost is much, much lower on the natural gas, except for last year when we did have the terrible spike in gas prices. If you look at any other month or any other normal year, it's really just during the 2 coldest months of January and February where we tend to use more gas. Throughout the rest of the year, it's fairly minimal that we're doing. That would mainly be our hot water heaters that exist out and about, spread out across the school sites, for hot water in restrooms and kitchens, et cetera. We do have some gas-powered hot water heaters.
Are you saying that it's less expensive than the electricity coming from solar?
I wasn't saying that.
Okay,
I was saying
that's what I wanted.
I was saying overall the amount of natural gas that we use to begin with is fairly low in the district, and that the cost is quite low on our natural gas, except for 2 months last year.
Any additional questions? Okay, no questions. I'm actually going to make a motion on this one to approve resolution number 26-2324 in support of electrification of district facilities with amendments to Exhibit A. The fourth whereas, I'd like to add, and will commit to the same goals as the Clean Energy Alliance, which seeks to have all customers at 100% renewable energy by 2025. And then the second, be it further resolved to add that as the Carlsbad Unified School District Board of Education seeks to expand upon existing efforts and to create healthier, more sustainable schools, it hereby establishes the following goals. Phase out the use of fossil fuels by electrifying all district infrastructure, including buildings, maintenance vehicles, as practicable. The district will work with community partners and take a leading role in actively pursuing funding for this transition in order to electrify systems at a faster rate to reach our goals by 2030. Power all new buildings with 100% electric energy, powering up to level 1 in 2025. Replace existing mechanical heating systems, natural gas-powered water heaters and gas stoves and other natural gas-powered equipment will be replaced at the end of their useful life with all-electric systems. Starting in 2025, include electric vehicle charging systems as part of whole campus modernization projects. Transition to 100% clean energy by December 31st, 2025 through Clean Energy Alliance's program. Build upon Board Policy 6142.5 to include clean jobs curriculum for students to learn about and prepare for future career pathways in the electrification and clean energy fields. May I have a second? So it's Trustee Rawlings motioned and Trustee Ward seconded. Discussion. The reason I went ahead and made the amendments here is that I didn't hear anything from Mr. Dill through discussions and when we were putting forward the resolution itself that contradicts any of this. It says as practicable. It's, we have investments, big investments in solar, and the more that we can draw our energy from the solar, the cheaper and more, the more bang for our buck in that investment. Also, we have board policy that already supports a curriculum and career pathways through board policy 6142.5. And in my opinion, when we talk about costs, if we look at powering up to 100% renewable energy, we are already getting cost avoidance and savings from our investment in solar. Why on earth wouldn't we go ahead and increase the little that we do use from the grid to 100% renewable? So I don't believe that any of these additions contradict what we've heard tonight and would really cost anything more. And the more we work with the Clean Energy Alliance, I believe the better in that partnership. So that's why I put these forward. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear before we have discussion. Any other discussion? Trustee Williamson.
I will be voting no on that.
Thank you. Trustee Pearson.
I prepared a little statement because I'll be voting no, but I want to give the reasons why. Not only should I be just telling you why I won't be voting on the amendment or the whole resolution at this point.
Okay.
First of all, I want to thank the staff for taking time to bring this resolution forth as well. We ask our students to be critical thinkers, and as a board member, I should be a critical thinker as well, too. First, I agree the climate is changing, and it has been changing throughout the history of the world. Interesting enough, the world has evolved and thrived during all these climate changes, and we're here to sit here as being evidence of that. And the current rate of warming is happening at a rate not seen in the past 10,000 years, which humanity has survived and thrived. I will not be supporting the resolution as written for 3 reasons. The cost to fully electrify all our facilities is not clearly defined in this resolution. The majority of the community has not asked for CUSD facilities to be fully electrified and willing to pay the cost with our limited capital funds for full electrification. And third, these renowned scientists have spoken to the assumptions in the first paragraph of the resolution. These renowned scientists have been skeptics of the modeling and reasons presented. Physicist Freeman Dyson, he's Princeton-based. Bjorn Lomborg is a Danish-based scientist, highly respected physicist out of Princeton. Australian professor Ian Pilner and Alan Carlin is an EPA, than our current and future capital financial situation.
I think it is important for us to work toward reducing our impact on the environment, and I believe the district's already on this, but I don't believe a resolution like this is something we should be prioritizing right now at this time.
Original resolution.
I would have listened to what my fellow board members said before I would make that decision.
So if I withdrew the amendment, would you reconsider where you stand?
I would listen to my fellow board members.
Be the original district facility Exhibit A that's in the board packet, and again, that isn't happening, that hasn't been done, and part of the reason why we did go solar and we did the green go back into classrooms, as well as we also have we had a resolution. We were having our rates jacked up by like 40%. So we are in a better position to be more resilient because of the steps that we've made. And so from it, as it stands now, the original resolution. I need to second the amending my motion? Okay.
Mr. Pearson, would anything that you had shared, would that change with the amendment being withdrawn?
I join these renowned scientists worldwide who are skeptical on the modeling on green gas of the grind. So I said the only part is whereas climate change, which is predominantly driven by burning fossil, correlation between burning fossil fuels has caused natural disasters, devastating storms, hysteric wildfires, and extreme heat. Can't support that paragraph. Now, you take that paragraph out, and I agree with President Rawlings, we are doing all those things. And if we're going to talk, if we're going to make critical thinkers of our students, we should show both sides of the science. 97%, that's great. If I have a problem with, to answer your question.
Okay. And Trustee Pearson, are you aware that that paragraph, any other discussion? Ms. Garcia, could you please call for the vote?
No.
Trustee Rawlings?
Yes.
Motion fails 2 to 3.
Thank you. Now hand it over to Dr. Churchill.
Thank you, trustees. You see before you a number of board policies to be revised as a first come from CSBA's model policy recommended updates. The two that did not come from CSBA discussion at the April meeting about the use of cell phones in classrooms. So we did have our two recommended we move them forward to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. This is the time for public comment. Have any blue cards been received?
We do not have any.
Well, thank you, first of all, for all the work that went into the cell phone policy and tightening that up. I really appreciate that. And saying migrant student and students who are migratory.
The desire to put students first in like language conventions. So instead of saying, have any insight into why CSBA made the recommendation, but I presume that it has something to do with that. This move towards a language convention, that's the best I got. Yeah.
Any other questions? I do have a question. 1.8, I had asked it before. What is compulsory leave of absence? And is it a paid or unpaid leave?
Report against an employee on certain listed offenses. We're required to place the employee on an unpaid leave of absence until the.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Why we are not also including the words religious or gender, religious and gender.
Yeah, again, this came directly from the CSBA model policy guide. Those are their recommendations.
Any other questions? No other questions. May I have a 4157, 4211, 4218, 4257, 44, 5145.3, and 6175, and approval of a first reading and waive. Trustee Williamson. Discussion? Any discussion? Okay. Ms. Garcia, please call for a vote.
Trustee Rawlings?
Yes.
Motion passes 4 to 1.
Thank you. Requests for information from staff. Trustees, are there any requests for information from staff that have already? Moving on to item 8.1, governance team reports. This is the time for trustees to provide a brief report if they've attended committee. I will report on it next time, or I will ask Trustee Verbeth to do that as well, but we did attend this. And the next item, thank you, and now we move on to item 8.2, trustee request for information from staff board.
I have one.
Okay, great. As a reminder, trustees are prohibited from having a discussion tonight on how long the request will take to accomplish.
Okay. So I made some modifications, so bear with me. I'll read what I have. And methods of communication that are provided to parents, students, and staff during lockdowns and secure campus incidents. Email or parent square or possibly even text. During the recent swatting incident at Carlsbad High School, we saw, I believe that we did a very good job at sharing some information, but there was some information that, with regard to how we communicate and our different methods of communication, and whether we should adopt something else or add something to it to continue to improve our communication.
And I can work with Mr. Evanson and pull something together pretty quickly. It shouldn't take a lot of time to.
Thumbs? Okay. Any other requests? Is there one? Why don't we have? There we go. Okay, I keep skipping, sorry. Thank you. We move on to item 8.3, trustee requests for future of the board. I have one. And I'll remind myself that it's prohibited from having a discussion tonight on these items per long the request will take to accomplish. At our last board meeting, we had a request from a GSA advisor so I'd like to see thumbs. No other things. So it's failed. Okay, move on to the next one. And we are, it is, what time is it? 8:04, and regular meeting is now adjourned. Our next regular meeting will take place on June 12th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at Carlsbad Unified School District office.
And we're going back into closed.
And we're going back into closed session, and no action will be taken.